Are you in a position where you're defined by your age, and that's limiting you to pursue a dream or goal you want to accomplish? The More Than Your Age podcast is about having conversations with women who fully live their lives without being dictated or defined by their age. This is a space to encourage women who feel blocked to pursue a dream or goal based on their life circumstances. Welcome to the More Than Your Age podcast. I am your host, Erica Pasbar. Let's start living life fully and become more than your age. I'm very excited for you to hear my interview today with Grapevine Middle School Principal Mandy Alexander. I love meeting people who have a type of humility that you'd never expect in a role of such high leadership, whether it's in public education or not. As I spoke with Mandy, it was clear to see why she was given the great opportunity to become a principal after what some would say a short amount of time after she had been away from the classroom for roughly 14 years. Her outlook on life and the path that it took to get her to a position she never expected to have is one of honor and respect. I can't wait for you to learn from and hear Mandy's story on her unexpected path to becoming a principal after 14 years away from the classroom. Joining the More Than Your Age podcast is the principal of Grapevine Middle School, a local school here in Dallas-Fort Worth, Mandy Alexander. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so great to join you today. Thank you for having me, Erica.
I am very thankful to have you, Mandy. I love how you and I met working for the school district together years ago. I don't remember exactly when we met. You may have been at the high school, or it may have been your job prior to that. But I just remember you had this special light about you, so friendly. And then I love how you and I reconnected. We just started attending a new church, and you happened to be going there, and then just hearing a little bit about your story. I think you were encouraging me in my current season. And then as I was listening to you, I was like, wait a second, Mandy, your story is what I need on this podcast.
That was such a God thing, wasn't it? Like in our little quick reconnection. That was incredible. Just walking out of church and seeing your sweet face. That was a sweet day. That was awesome.
Yes. And you and I, we have some mutual friends too, who just speak so highly of you. And so I'm just looking forward. I've been looking forward to this conversation. So you're in the education world. When you first started in education, what were you teaching, and what did you want to have as a career in education, or why?
Yeah, I started in 1998. And I was in a little school in Atkins, Arkansas, and taught everything in social studies in junior high because we were a one hallway school. And I was waiting on my husband who was finishing his degree. And so we started there in 98, and then we moved to the Metroplex. And I just thought I want to teach social studies, and I would be a classroom teacher like my mom. My mom was a kindergarten teacher for 30 years. And administration was kind of the bad guy in a lot of table conversations at dinner. I remember she would say things like, "Oh, I have the best principal," or "Oh, this time I have a hard principal." And so I just knew principals had a lot of opportunity to make things better or harder for teachers. And so my mom showed me that. And so I just really thought I'd stay in the classroom like my mom did. And I got pregnant with our first child, and my husband, who's a football coach, said, "I got a new job offer, and it's out in Abilene." And off we went. And there was no job for me, and a new baby. And that became a new career path of being a stay-at-home mom that I had not anticipated ever or planned on ever.
Really? So did you decide to stay home because you just said there wasn't a job for you?
Yes.
What were you looking for in education?
Yeah. So there was no social studies openings, and I had this month-old child, and we didn't know anyone out there, or so I didn't know the neighboring areas. I was just trying to get a job in Abilene High, where Mike was at the time, and nothing was opening. And so I thought, okay, it was a lot of prayer, and so we both decided, well, I'll just wait. And so I waited that year. I had been a drill team director, and the principal came and said, hey, I'm doing a little problem solving, and would you be interested in working part-time and coming to do our drill team during the day? And I said, yes, I would love that. And so I kind of got my foot back in the door with drill team, and which is just working with students and parents. And then I kept having babies. We had two more children out in Abilene. And so, and then Mike came and said, hey, I have this great job offer to move to Rockwall. And so now we've been in Garland, Abilene. Now we're in Rockwall. And, it was really interesting being a teacher, but also just loving to learn. I think that's one of the reasons why you're teachers, and I love to learn. And when I was out in Abilene, I didn't know what to do with my time, didn't know how to be a stay-at-home mom. 9/11 had just happened, and I was just sitting on my couch watching the news with a newborn. It was a really lonely place to be. And some women in my church invited me to Bible Study Fellowship, to BSF. And that's where I became a student again, but this time of the Bible. And it was really, really great. I met so many moms that were stay-at-home moms too. And it was this new life that I hadn't seen for myself. And then that turned into teaching, because I'm always a teacher, the little ones in BSF. And so I would go and do that. And so it just kind of kept going, which is interesting. I think once you're a teacher, you kind of do it everywhere you go, I think.
Yeah. Now, so you mentioned that you were a drill team director at some point too.
Mm-hmm.
How long?
Mm-hmm.
How many years did you do that? And was it
Mm-hmm.
for a really big school or smaller scale?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. Well, I danced throughout, I mean, gosh, from 5 years old on, and danced in college. I was a Kilgore College Rangerette for 2 years, and then went to Arkansas Tech University, and they invited me to be their Pom Squad director at the university. And so that was just a fantastic experience, all 4 years of college, with those collegiate opportunities and performances, and just taught me a lot. Uh, and as I went into high school drill team, I was the director at Plano West Senior High, and it was a huge drill team of 75 girls every year, and just outstanding talent and character, and community. It was just a wonderful place to be. And then in Abilene High, outstanding young women and families. And so it was really fun, because in at Plano West, a lot of the girls, had been in dance their whole life, and so they were very seasoned dancers. And then when I went to Abilene, a lot of the girls on the team, they were so excited. This was their first chance to dance. And so it was really, I learned so much. Again, as a teacher, you learn so much of, okay, I was used to not having to break down all the skills, and now I get to stretch my teaching muscles, and learn how to break down the skills, and in a different way for students. And so it was just wonderful. And the relationships that I have with those girls still continue, which is just so fun. And then that led me, when we moved to Rockwall, there was no drill team opening. They had fantastic drill team directors there in Rockwall. But a friend of mine, again in BSF, I got into a local BSF class there in Garland. And my BSF leader, I kept saying, would you pray for me? I'm looking for friends. We just moved here, and would you pray for me? And she prayed for me a year, the full year that I was in her group. And then finally, at the end of the year, she and I both went to coffee, and I said, I think you're my friend. I think you're my one person. I had several friends then, but I think you're my person. And we just had a drill team background. She was a Texas A&M Aggie dancer, was on the first team. And we said, we've got these little young ones that are preschoolers. What if we started a dance studio together? And so we did, and that's how Girls of Grace started. And, um, and so it was just a wonderful experience for several years of us getting to do that together.
Wow, that's really neat. Okay, so you just said a few things that I want
Hmm.
to go back and talk about too. So when you were over at Plano West, what years were you there?
I was there 2000 to 2001.
Okay.
They opened the school in 99, and then I jumped in. And then Mike got his job, and I had to leave my dream job because that was my dream job. Plano West was, I just thought, you can't get any better. You
Yeah.
know, the drill team level, it was just incredible. It was incredible. And so I was just, in my dream job, and God has asked me to let go of some things with all of these moves every single time of just, it was hard. It was hard because I thought, this is a great school. I loved my colleagues. I loved the kids that I was coaching, and the parents that I got to be with, and the friends that I was making. And Abilene looks really different than Plano.
Well, and even like you were saying, just the skill level, you had dancers who had been dancing their whole
Oh,
life, and
yeah.
Abilene, you're kind of teaching some of the basics.
Yes. Yes. And when I went to Abilene, I literally, there was nothing that I was going to. It didn't look like. I waited a full year, that first full year, before the principal actually, before there was an opening, and it was in drill team. Again, I mean, it was just amazing how God just kept opening these doors that had to do with dance and with my background, and um, the opportunities He'd given me in dance. It was really incredible.
Now, you said too that, so much of part of, and not part, but of your story is just moving and moving and moving because of your husband's job. And you had this
Hmm.
dream job, like you said, in Plano, being the drill team director. And for people who don't know the school, it's a massive school. It's a huge, huge school. To get that job is, like you said, it would be a dream, especially if
Hmm.
you're in the drill team world. I went to Hebron
Hmm.
High School, and so I was on their drill
Yes.
team my senior year, which was like
Yes.
the year
Hmm.
after. And so you probably, I don't know if you competed against Hebron,
Oh,
um, but maybe, I'm not sure. Anyway, all that
yes.
to
We probably
say,
just missed each other.
we did, yeah. So
Hmm.
when you had to leave because of your husband's job, you leave your dream job, was like, how did you kind of wrestle with those emotions of, I want to support my husband, I'm going to, obviously, but then also I'm kind
Hmm.
of mourning this dream job
Hmm.
that I've desired for so long?
Yes. Yes. You know, that's a great question. I think God over and over, just in being in His Word and reminding me of who's really in control of my life, and that it's ultimately God, and that I was trusting that my husband was hearing from God, and that he was leading us correctly, and then really praying honestly with God in quiet places of, if he's messing this up, will you fix it? And just trusting that God was big enough, that he was big enough to fix it. It's a hard thing. We had a lot of conversations, and just prayed about it a lot together. We prayed about it a lot together. And I so appreciated, his kindness in that, and understanding that I was following him, and I was letting him lead our family. I am kind of hard to lead sometimes, I would say. I don't think, with him, if he was sitting beside me, he would say, "Yes, you are." Because I do. I ask him a lot of questions. It's not like I'm like, "Sure, let's do it." It was a lot of hard questions and prayer, but ultimately, I just feel like God just taught me to believe that He's bigger, and that and to trust that He was leading my husband. And even if we got it wrong, God could make it right again.
I like that. I think that's a good perspective to have, that even if you did get it wrong, God would make it right. And just to trust, because I would imagine that that was still
Mhm.
really hard.
Yes, yes. It. I was studying Moses, and was like, okay, Lord, this is my wilderness. Like, I just had that. Like, God just kind of because I had a Bible study at our school. It was so awesome. And that was one of the things we were studying. And it was like, okay, Mandy, yes, I'm going to take you out to the wilderness. We had just had our first grandbaby, and on both sides, and all the parents were very sad that we were leaving. Um, but and I'm telling you, it was that move. Um, I really believe when God says in His Word, when you seek me, you will find me. He means that. Like, He's not trying to hide His will from us. He's just not. And so when we seek Him and try, we'll find Him. And so with that, it was leading us to that place. But God gave us so many friends. I didn't know how much I needed space in my life to have friends that I could study the Bible with and learn. Going to BSF, I would have never had that if I'd been working full time. And so even though I think God in that move taught me, let go of all the plans that you have, because I had so many plans that I was holding so tightly to. And in that move, God taught me, hey, let go. I'm going to do some different things. And then, wow, He did a lot of different things, because I never thought I would have 4 children. Always it was going to be 2 and we're done. My husband had 2, my family had 2. And so we had 4.
After
Just
number 2, y'all.
different all the way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kept on going.
Um, well, I think that's wonderful. So you mentioned you were in Garland, right, in the BSF, and you wanted to make a friend, and then finally at the end of the year, you said to your leader, "I think you're my friend." Side story though, Mandy, my first year after I left my job, where I met you, I heard about BSF as well, and so I was like, "Okay, I'm going to join it." And I told my friend, my friend was the leader, a table group leader, and I happened to get put in her group, and I said, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm doing this for all the wrong reasons. I'm doing this because I want to make friends, because I don't have any friends anymore. I mean, I had, but just not that I worked with, and it's just different. You understand?"
Yes.
And I was like, "But I know God could still use it." And she's like, "Yeah, great. Okay, that's wonderful." And outside of her, I did not make one friend that year. And I was like, "Okay, great."
You're like, okay,
Yeah.
you were my friend.
It's the same story.
Isn't that funny?
It is. Okay. Well,
Yes,
so
I love
y'all,
it.
so you became friends with your leader. She also had a jolting background. And then you two open Every Girl's Calling. And then at some point to Girls of Grace Dance. Could you share with us a little more about what these businesses were?
Yes, absolutely. So Girls of Grace came first. It was in Rockwall, and that was the dance studio. And we were both stay-at-home moms of little ones, and neither one of us were ready to let go of that, and didn't feel like God was really calling us to let go of that at that point. So we did a 1 day a week dance studio. And we just looked around. We asked churches, we asked the Rotary Club, can we borrow your building for a day and pay rent? And so, and they let us. And so we rented out, and we bought portable, ballet bars and portable tap boards. And so we just had a ball, and it was, it was 3 years old up to 5th grade. And so we had classes for the little ones in the afternoon after nap time. And then all of the kids after school would be the grade level classes. And we danced to like just beautiful worship music, or fun, hymns set to fun, fast music. I mean, we just had a blast. And my kids, my own 3 girls, were a part of that with us. And we had recitals. We rented out at Rockwall High School. They let us rent their auditorium, had recitals. And it was just, we went through a curriculum. We did the fruits of the Spirit, and every month we did a different fruit. And we would just kind of work through that with our girls together. And so we were just, very upfront with all the mamas and families that brought their kids, what our curriculum was and what our focus was. And it was just such a gift. It was just a wonderful gift. And watching those little girls, we would do a Christmas little show off for the parents, and they would come in, and just watching them sing as they were dancing and closing their eyes as they were dancing to worship music in their little ballet tutus was just, I'll never forget it. It was the most wonderful, special thing. And again, things that I would have missed out on if I had thought, no, my life's supposed to look like this. And just kind of opened up a little bit. I never in my life would have dreamed that I would have owned a business and been able to do that. And then when my husband came again and said, "Hey, Mandy, I know you have this business." And at that time, I was the substitute teaching leader in BSF in our group. And I know that you're loving all this, but I got this job opportunity. And this time it was in Mount Vernon, and which is a tiny little town with one stoplight. And again, what I was so nervous about, oh my gosh, there wasn't a Walmart or a Target or, anything. But I tell you what, again, the sweetest people, just like in Abilene, the sweetest people that just wrapped us up in our church, that we found the same thing in Mount Vernon. And they just welcomed us in and, hey, you want to come help with Awanas and, Wednesday night suppers and all those things, that you get to do in a small town. And it was just wonderful. And I so many wonderful friends that, but one of them, my dear friend, again from church, Whitney, we were talking about just our hearts as moms and trying to encourage our girls who are now growing up to not just be concerned with this, what we look like and what's going on the outside, but really what God is doing on the inside, and how to listen to God. And so we both we thought, okay, we're going to start, we started a business called Every Girl's Calling. And so that, we invited young girls and we just got together. And in this one, it was kind of like a mix between studying God's Word with them. These girls were a little bit older, like upper elementary to middle school now, and just really trying to come alongside families. Like we know what we were trying to teach our children, but it's so beautiful when other women and people can speak, those same wonderful, positive truth from God's Word. And so that's what we wanted to do, to come alongside other families in that way. And so this time we did crafts around that because my friend Whitney is so crafty, way more than me. And, but it wasn't designed around dance this time. It was designed more around, kind of like a cotillion style where you kind of do some different manners and different things like that, etiquette things. We blended that in there with their little snack time and things. And so then we went to a really fancy tea room and got to do that. And so it was just a sweet time, just to enjoy being girls and just kind of embracing that and all of that is, and all of that it can be, but just staying to God's Word and being true to that. So again, sweet, sweet time with families and mamas and girls that I never would have dreamed I would have had.
I really like the business model for Every Girl's Calling. I think that's very unique. And now, when you and Whitney were doing this business, what did you run it more like a nonprofit or was it a for-profit? And how did people hear about it? And did they pay to join? Like, how did the structure of that work?
They did. It was both of those. Sarah and I with Girls of Grace, and Whitney and I with Every Girl's Calling. We did, have a little fee associated with it that parents paid. We tried to make it, again, we were stay-at-home moms, but we were trying to, both Sarah and I and Whitney and I were stay-at-home moms, but we wanted to do something, use our skills and abilities to be able to help. Contribute to what we were doing as a family, and so we did. For those, it was like a 6-week course or a 9-week course for Every Girl's Calling. So it was more of a course where you kind of what every week is going to be, and then what the kind of the little finale night was. I don't think we went to Dallas that year, but it was, special little trip was kind of their finale of how they ended. And then the same with the dance. It was just a tuition base, but it was very minimal compared to other studios. We tried to be really affordable because we were stay-at-home moms too. So we were just trying to make it affordable.
Yeah, you understood how expensive things were. Well, I think it's really neat too because, if there's somebody listening to who is staying home and is like, I do have ideas that I would love to help other moms or something that we can do to work alongside. I have these skills and, you know, in teaching or doing some type of Bible lesson or whatever, or dance or
Yes.
whatever that may be. I think that was, I would imagine, was a very special time for you and your children and then the members of the community.
Yes, it was really great. And then that community, God was so sweet to bring us there because everything was surrounded around serving people in the community. And so everyone, that's really where I learned. I think God really put a spotlight on that for me, is using the gifts and abilities that He's given you for the good of other people. And so we got to be a part of and learn with some, like, let's create a clothes closet that's downtown on the square for all of our families to be able to come. Let's band together all of the churches to feed our children in the summer, and we're going to shuttle them to the church, and we're going to have programming. Let's partner with Home Depot, and they can come in and do crafts with our students, and let's have Bible study lessons, and let's let guys who love to play basketball play with the boys, and girls who love to play basketball. I was not the basketball person, but everyone use your gifts and abilities to serve, and that was a really beautiful thing that I'm so grateful my children still talk about, are those opportunities. And it came from the church and people in the church, and just being invited to be a part of the work. And then, it's fun to watch your children get a vision of that as well.
Oh, yeah. Those are, like you said, life lessons that they will take on with them
Mhm.
forever and teach them character traits and skills that
Yes.
they may not have gotten somewhere else. So that's
Yes.
great. Well, okay. And then you
Yes.
stay there, and then how long was it? And then you had your husband took you off somewhere else.
Yes. I mean, you're sensing the pattern. You're sensing the pattern. And so while we were there, I actually, our youngest went to kindergarten. And when she went to kindergarten, I started substitute teaching. And because there were no jobs at the time. And so I just thought, I'm going to sub. And oh my goodness, I'm so glad I did. I did that for 2 years before I got a job. And wow, I had a newfound respect for elementary school teachers because I kept getting those calls. And I loved it, but I had no idea how exhausting it is to be an elementary school teacher. I'd watched my mom do it, but man, those are special people. And so, but I got to sub a lot. And then my husband hired me and fired me because he had a coaching position, but no coach. And so they hired me to come in and just teach half a day and then go home. And then at the end of the year, he said, "You're fired because we found a coach that can fill that spot." And so it was just hilarious. I give him a hard time about that still. But then we were praying again, and God just made it very clear that He was calling us to Grapevine. And that was really scary. And because we were so used to, I mean, our little school was on a little complex where my husband would literally get on a golf cart and go pick up the kids at the elementary, and then swing by and pick up the fifth and sixth grader at the intermediate, and then go to the field house to, it was that kind of a small little place. And we were coming to Grapevine, and it was like, I don't even know, where do I apply for a job? And where would you go to elementary school? There's so many elementaries. We're used to just one. And what if you don't get an elementary by me where I work? And so there were so many unknowns. And we just kept praying and praying and praying. And funny story, Becky Lamb, who we both know and love, a mutual friend of mine that worked here, was like, "You don't understand. This place is great. Grapevine. Don't be scared that it's bigger. The people here are amazing." And And that was the first name I knew, was Becky Lamb takes care of people. And so, yeah. And so we moved here, and I got one job interview, and it was at CMS, and I got hired, and I was so grateful. And my kids got in at CES so they could come up the hill to me, and just had a lot of kindness of people helping me. And so again, now I'm coming into working full time, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know anyone, and just praying again. And people were just so kind, and offered to help. And, I think I've learned a lot about, and I'm not great at it, asking for help, and I needed help. And as a working mom, and, with hours that were different than my kids, and I'm just really grateful. People helped me so many times, and so I, I definitely would tell every woman who is coming back to work full time, don't be afraid to ask for help. Let people help, because it's such a blessing. And now that I'm on this side of it, and my kids are all older, I'm like, yes, let me help. How can I help? Um, so but it matters. It matters when you're, just trying to get started again, and whatever you're doing.
Yeah, it can be really scary, but I'm glad you did say just ask for help because there are people there that want to help. Well, okay, so you
Hmm.
guys move here to
Hmm.
Grapevine, to the big city, um, and
Yes, I know.
and I remember when you and I were talking that you said to me, you had been subbing, you were out of the classroom for so many years. Like, would you worry that would anybody
Hmm.
find value in what I was doing, and then also eventually have this desire to become a principal. But I kind of want to talk too about how did that unfold for you, just like with your confidence or with, I know you trust in the Lord, and so that obviously that
Hmm.
helps. Just trusting that He has His plan for you, but in the midst of being where you were comfortable, and then you would sub, and then coming to this bigger city that's completely different. How was that
Hmm.
transition for you, and with your confidence and everything?
Yes, that's a great question. I think, because when I was looking at my resume, I just remember thinking, this is pitiful. No one is going to hire me, because it looked like I was 1 year here, 1 year there, 1 year here. Um, it just, I just thought I look really flighty, and I'm not flighty, but it looks like I am. And then when you counted the years, not being in the public education system, doing different things, I thought, oh, would those experiences make me look unprepared to do this job, or ill-equipped to do this job? And so I really, I saw my resume as a huge weakness, and I saw those years when trying to come back into education, I saw it as a huge weakness, and I did not have confidence in that at all. And I really did. I remember sitting in the parking lot, and just praying before I walked into that door, because I did not have any confidence. And I was just, Lord, help me. Every word that comes out of my mouth, help me. And what was so interesting is at the end of that interview, well, probably a year later, when I was really friends with someone that I worked with that year, I asked for feedback on that, and they said, no, Mandy, that was great. We loved that you had high school experience, middle school experience. You'd own your own business. You had, like like literally every single thing that I thought was a weakness was a strength.
Wow.
And that was so eye opening to me. I just, again, if I had, you couldn't make it up. I was just flabbergasted, and really still am. I mean, but to me, it just, um, I'm such a planner, and it was so hard to let go of holding the plans and I know God, I mean, I'm only 48, so I know I pray God has lots more to do in my life. But sitting here, where I am today and looking back, it's I, I feel a great confidence in knowing and believing that he means it when he says he will weave everything together for the good of those who love him. And it's true. Like I've seen it over and over. He's just proven it over and over. And so now I have great confidence, not in myself, not in, what I can do, but in the fact that I have watched God use my experiences to equip me for what he's calling me to next. And it's just something that I'm so grateful for. And I just want to encourage other people too, to see, when you're having those kind of dry seasons of like, I don't know what is happening here, because I remember being at home and I remember sitting on the couch when I was that first year being a stay-at-home mom, and I was watching the news with 9/11, and I'm looking at this newborn, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I would just sit on the couch and eat Pop-Tarts, and just eat Pop-Tarts and sit there in my sweatpants. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like my whole career is gone. Like I'm living in this city. I know no one, and then there's nothing to clean or do because I have this newborn. What are you supposed to do? They just sleep all day. It was just I remember that. And I remember just kind of feeling a little hopeless and a little depressed and a little lost. And that's when God sent me people and relationships and new opportunities to do things. And I think I would just encourage people to say yes, when different people. I remember my friend Laura, she would come and sit on my floor with me in Abilene, playing with my son, and would say, Mandy, would you like to come to BSF? I was like, oh no, I don't have anyone that could take care of Austin. And I just kept saying no. And then finally she tried for probably 6 months. And she finally came over one day, and I know. And she said, I said, why are you so dressed up? You come over here really dressed up. I'm in my sweats again. I just got finished eating Pop-Tarts. And she said, well, I'm going to BSF. This is my day that I go to BSF, and I'd love for you to come. And I found you a babysitter, and she's going to come to the church, and she's going to babysit at the church for you. Like she took away every opportunity for me to say no. And so I was like, okay. I mean, clearly I'm just in my sweats every day. She sees this. And so I just think of that season in my life with my friend Laura, and I try and ask God now to use me like he used Laura for somebody else, and to see them, and to make the time to go and spend time with people, and invite people into things, just into spending time together, really. That was important because, when you're working full time, you have people around you. Sometimes you're too busy. So it's interesting just the different seasons in life that you can find yourself in.
Yeah. And how everything can change. I just appreciate what you said.
Yeah.
I think that's just really beautiful to hear. And then just to look back, I also love too what you said kind of a while ago about how what you thought was a weakness of yours with the hopping around with the job, and that the school that you interviewed with said, no, we see that as a strength, and that this is wonderful for you. And you said, how many years was it that you had from where you weren't working in the public schools?
14 years.
Oh.
14.
I didn't realize it was that long.
That's a long time. It was. I mean, subbing, but I mean like a full-time job, because I had, 3 years of drill team in Abilene, but I was part-time. Working in Mount Vernon, but I was part-time. Subbing, but that was part-time. And so, I was in the public schools, but not having a full-time job where my name was, on a door. That's my classroom kind of situation. And so, 14 years of non-traditional is what I guess I would call it.
Okay. Well, so you get, you're back into the classroom for your first job full time after 14 years, and you're teaching, you're enjoying it. At what point did you say, oh, I think I want to pursue administration. Before we thought they were kind of, the bad guys,
Mhm.
sometimes the good guys, but sometimes
Yeah,
the bad guys.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
now there's this shift. What happened?
Yes. Well, so it's funny jumping into full-time teaching again. I remember my husband took me. I was just learning, because we in Mount Vernon we didn't have the level of technology as we have in our current district, and we didn't have the type of lesson planning and all of those kinds of things. And so that's one of the things that drew us to this district, this school district, is the high expectations. But I had a lot of learning to do. And so, instructionally, with computers, all of it, with all of the digital components. And so, I just threw myself into it and again, just asked for help. And so, I went to our learning liaison on our campus, Suzanne, and she was incredible. And I would send her my lesson plans and say, "Give me feedback on this. How do I make this better? What can I do? Come video me, help me be better." And then I would reach out to our instructional coach, Brandy, and say, "Will you come help me figure out how to do this?" And so again, that's one of the things I loved about our district. I thought, well, man, I called my mom on the way home from our kind of new hire orientation, and I said, "You will never believe it. I have found the best district ever." And she said, "You're kidding." And I said, "No." I said, "They have such high expectations, but they give you such high levels of support. There's people everywhere to help you." And that was just the best thing. And people were just so warm and kind and generous and helpful. And so I just jumped into learning again, and was just so grateful to have all this help around me, to help me. I wanted to be a great teacher, and they could help me be a great teacher. And so it was at the end of that year, I wasn't thinking that I wanted to be in administration. I was watching my instructional coach, Brandy, and my learning liaison, Suzanne, and I thought, oh, one day, if I could retire, if I could just get to their job, that's it. That's all I need. And you just help teachers, and you're just constantly learning and helping teachers grow. And that'd be my dream job, because I think I had, over those 14 years of not having a traditional pathway and watching my friends that I had graduated with kind of go on and become principals, um, I just had let go of that dream for myself. And I think I'd probably told myself, oh, that's not really for me anyway, so I wouldn't be disappointed. But I watched as my friends and colleagues kind of, kept moving and got into administration, but I didn't even have my master's. And so I just kind of let go of that dream and thought, well, that's just not the path for me, even though I'd wanted that path. So it wasn't until someone kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, did you see that there was an opening, to be an instructional coach?" And I said, "Oh yeah, but there's no way I'm getting that job. I didn't even put my application in." And my friend said, "Well, you should at least put your application in." I mean, that's where my confidence was. I was like, "Oh no, 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 no." Um, and so I put my application in and ended up being able to step into that role and get to work beside, the very people that I had just been in awe of and so grateful for. And so then I got to learn with them, and really that getting that job is what made me want my master's degree, and it wasn't to be in administration. It was because I looked around and I thought, I don't have what I need to be able to help teachers. I need to go learn some more. And so that's why I went and got my master's degree. And I literally got it 20 years to the day after I got my bachelor's degree. And so wild. I know, wild.
I love the humility in your story of, you're really, I mean, just genuinely, you want to learn. And then you see these coaches and you're like, oh, well, when I retire, I can do that and I can help teachers. And then, oh, well, okay, now I'm a coach. And well, to get my master's, I need that so that I can help other people. And it's so selfless. And I think that's just wonderful within your whole story and your mission and what you've been sharing already anyway of just, you know, um, loving the Lord and then being used by him to help and care for other people. That just is in who you are. And I think that probably makes you a phenomenal leader in your campus, and so I think that it's really enjoyable to hear that as how you are, working your way up when it was really just I want to learn so I can help other people. Well, so then Mandy, you get the master's, and also actually I did have a question. Was it after your first year back teaching full time that you got the coaching job? So you got it at your second year?
Yes. Yes. Which is crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. Like, but that's the thing. Like, that's what I want to say. Like, when God opens doors for you because he's like, this is what I have for you, then it doesn't matter that you think you're ill prepared or that you think, nope, I can't possibly. Like, if he opens the door, because I didn't deserve any of that. I didn't deserve that door to be opened. I mean, that was just God. That was just God. And so I got to do that job as an instructional coach for 2 years. And when people asked me what I did, I was like, my job is teacher helper. It's amazing. It was amazing. And got to work beside brilliant people. And then got to do a similar job, but at a campus. And that's when, so I did that instructional coach for 2 years for the whole district, which was so wonderful because I got to meet different campus leaders and different campuses and different people on the different campuses. And so that was a really special 2 years. And then I got to focus on just one campus and then became the instructional coach, which is a learning liaison at that specific campus at the high school level. And that was just a dream too. Wow, the people again that I got to work with and the students. This time I got students back, you know, um, got to spend time in classrooms with kids. And so being on a campus, I think that's what kind of, that learning liaison role of, man, no, it's fun to be, just with teachers in classrooms with students, which is why I like today when I was subbing. It's wonderful because when you love kids, you just love being around them. And so anyway, so I did that for 2 years and then became an assistant principal on that campus, on that same campus.
Okay, so you got your master's, and when you got the master's, it was really just for learning purposes. When was that shift of no, I do want to actually pursue and become an assistant principal or a principal? How did that happen?
Yes. I really think it was from working with the principals that I got to work with and working with the assistant principals I got to work with. I mean, um, I have to tell you, it's really been incredible, the people that I've been able to work with and learn from, and and just mentors that I've been. There's so many, um, but working with Dave Denning at Grapevine High School and seeing the way he has a heart for taking care of people. He has a heart for he loves kids. He loves education, teaching, but at the heart of who he is taking good care of people. And I just really connected with his leadership style as a principal. And then we had the best team when I was learning liaison there of assistant principals. And I was just inspired by them, just so inspired and and really wanted to join in that. Again, probably thinking I could retire as an assistant principal, it would be fine. Um, and so I put my hat in the ring when we had an opening on campus, and was just so grateful to get to come, and then got to learn from Alex Fingers, who now Dr. Fingers, who's there now, um, and just wow, he is such a systematic leader, and just focused on how to create good systems and communication. He's such a great communicator. And so I could just list so many people. There's so many things that I've learned, when I was in the C&I department working with Suzanne Newell. She was so inspiring to me. She's such a big thinker. And um, so I loved that in the C&I world of just big picture and dreaming and creative thinking. And then in the administration world of the okay, let's get organized and let's get a process and a system for how we're going to do those creative ideas. And that's when I realized, oh, I like doing that. I like doing that. And I didn't know that I liked doing that until I had that opportunity.
Well, and then you do get the call to become the head principal of Grapevine Middle School. What emotions did you experience? What did you still
Mm.
feel like? Did you feel inadequate, or did you feel like I made it?
Well, let me. So hilariously, the first interview I had as principal. So when I go into the meeting as to interview, I just prayed, and because I truly do mean it, like Lord, you give Grapevine Middle School the principal that you know they need, because it might not be me, and so that's how I try and go into every single interview. You give these kids, these parents, these teachers who they need, and I'll trust you with that. And I really thought I never, I really thought that she said it wrong when I got the phone call that, I thought, wait a minute, wait, did I hear that right? And, so, so to answer your question about my confidence, or was I like, yes, I've arrived. So we're trying to find a choir director, and we have these great candidates, and it was my first set of interviews in my new office as principal at Grapevine Middle School. And and I can't bring myself to sit in the big chair at the end, the fancy leather chair. And so I didn't, because I just didn't think, I was like, oh, I don't know. So I had the candidates sit in that big chair, and I sat on the end as just kind of one of the, you know, folks at the table, um, because I really do enjoy that leadership. I really do enjoy leading with a team, um, and and having a team, and not being heavy-handed in that way. And so it did take me a minute to feel comfortable just sitting in that chair, honestly, literally and figuratively, to sit in that chair.
Well, and it goes back to kind of just even before what I said of just your humility and the fact that for any interview that you wouldn't pray, Lord, can pray that I get this job, but it would be, Lord, we pray that the best candidate, the best person for this school, for this, this department or wherever would receive this job. And I think that's a huge lesson for other people to learn as well, if they do follow the same faith, and if not, to reconsider or to consider what it does mean to submit your life to the Lord. But just to have that humility of, Lord, this is in your hands, and I want what's best for this business, this company, this school. I really admire that about you.
Mm-hmm. There's a real freedom in that. It's and honestly, I mean, that's just Jesus, because it really is. I mean, it just goes back to him, because there is freedom when you do believe and follow in Jesus. There's a freedom that I'm not in control of everything, and that's okay. And that, the path, it might be rocky, it might be hard, but that's okay. It's all gonna work for my good and his glory. It's just, but
Mm-hmm.
but it's not all pretty all the time. I mean, I've definitely spent, you know, time in the hospital, and time, it's not like everything in my life has been easy, or, without trouble. And so that's the thing too. It's not like every door has been an open door, because it hasn't been. And so, but I think it's just kind of the waiting and the trusting, and just kind of getting still sometimes when we maybe don't get those open doors, because not every door is an open
Right.
door.
Yeah. And also, too, what you were saying, that just because you did get this great position and opportunity doesn't make it super easy and carefree. Like it's a hard job. It's challenging, and I know you see a lot and work with a lot, and so with a great role comes great responsibility. But I just love that that this happened to you, and I think just based on hearing you and my interactions I've had with you, that you just sound like a phenomenal leader and a job well deserved. Well, Mandy, I have a couple more questions for you, and we're gonna get you out of here because I know it's a late day for you, and you've been on campus all day, and I know you're tired. Um, so this dream to kind of happened a little later to become a principal, this dream that came to this reality. The path that took you to get there was not your traditional path, and initially not as quick because that happened, that 14 years. And once you got back into the classroom, it was pretty quick, but it wasn't as traditional as it has taken others. What could you say, in addition to things that you've already said, to the stay-at-home mom or for a career transfer who may want that path but feel as though they'll be too far out of the game to pursue it?
Mm-hmm. I think just being encouraged to know that some people's paths are just very straight, and then some zigzag a little bit, but they can arrive at the same place, and that's where I think just not to be discouraged and just keep kind of collecting those experiences, because they really do move you to the next thing, even the small things, like singing to your little ones when you're cleaning up toys. I mean, my children are now 22, 20, 18, and 16, and they still remember going to BSF, and they still remember um, going to do Bible studies with Somalian refugee families that we got to do in Rockwall when they were little, or the cleanup song in our playroom. I mean, the smallest little things that you're doing with your family and pouring into your children, you and it doesn't matter if you're a full-time working mom and doing that, or a stay-at-home mom. Either way, because we all have time in the day that we're spending that time with our children. But just to know that the smallest times and the smallest things that we're doing with them matter. It matters, and it's so fun on this side of it, listening to their, like, the things that our family was doing made a big impact on them. And they love all of those different experiences. And just like I can speak to all of the different moves and the different people that God let us learn from and grow with and be inspired by, my children have those same stories. And so it's amazing how God takes our whole family on journeys. And so it's not just for us, it's for our kids too.
All right, last question for you. Similar but different. This is the question I like to ask all my guests. If you could encourage one woman who feels blocked or limited to pursue a dream or goal based on her age or life circumstance, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to reach out to someone and be honest about what's in her heart, because it's in her heart. She wants to go pursue it. Don't be afraid to reach out to someone, to say that out loud, and then talk about how might I get there, and just have a little dreaming party, and kind of talking about it and thinking about it and playing with what would that look like. For me, I did not know what it was, and still don't know. I don't know what next year looks like or the year after that. I mean, who knows? But when God has put something in your heart and you're like, no, that's a dream of mine, I really want to pursue that. I'm definitely living proof that it does not matter how old you are or what experiences you are. God can take you from here and just go, and now we're moving over here. Quick, so fast. And so I would just say, also pray about it. Just pray, God, if this is from you, make this happen. Show me what to do. Show me what the next right thing is, and just kind of follow and just look for those breadcrumbs of what's the next right thing.
Mandy, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. I hope, one, that you are still the principal when my children go to Grapevine Middle School. But we'll see what the path takes you. But I just appreciate your time. I appreciate your wisdom, your humility, just the little nuggets that you shared and how you lead. And you are such a servant leader. So thank you, Mandy, for joining the show.
Thank you for having me, Erica. It's great to be with you.
If you were encouraged by today's episode, like and subscribe to this podcast and share this episode with a friend. You can find me on Instagram at More Than Your Age and visit the More Than Your Age Facebook page. Keep striving for your goals, live fully, and we'll catch you next time on the More Than Your Age podcast.